Very, very informal podcast here. Another city council update with Michael Wojcik. I'm here today with Warren Hanson and John Errigo from Minnesota, Greater Minnesota Housing Fund. And so many questions always come up about affordable housing. I got a couple of folks here who really know their stuff, so we're just going to ask you a couple quick questions about it. And you probably get these questions all the time. When a new proposal is an affordable housing project is proposed, what percentage of the time do all the neighbors come to the meeting and say, "We are so excited for this to be happening"?
Well, oddly enough, oftentimes many of the neighbors do show up and really do want the affordable housing to be built. And I'll tell you why. Oftentimes, affordable housing is built to a higher standard than your typical market rate project. It's built with better design and more attention to design in terms of, exterior quality and landscaping and so forth. And the other thing that's probably most important is it's often managed better than certain private sector developments, especially older ones that may exist nearby. And so it can be a real boost to the property values, and it can be a real boost over the long term to just the neighborhood stability and the reinvestment that's being made in the neighborhood.
I can add to that too. I'm now with Greater Minnesota Housing Fund, but a number of years ago I worked at Metro Plains, and I was the project manager for Cascade Creek Apartments here in Rochester, right over off of Civic Center Drive, right by the New Horizon daycare. And that was a development that was well received by the community because the developer worked together with the community, with design charrettes, as Warren was alluding to come up with a design that worked for that site. It was a very progressive neighborhood. Everybody was supportive of that. And I think it's one of the best examples of affordable housing in the community today.
Yeah.
Well, that project has been wonderful. It's been transformational to a part of town that was not necessarily that desirable before. It is gorgeous. I mean, everyone who sees that building, no one even knows it's affordable housing because it's done to such an outstanding, high-quality standard. It's been wonderful. I wish we could do 20 more of those projects in this community. Two of the big misconceptions, and we hear these frequently, it's a fear, but I don't believe it's necessarily a rational fear. We always hear, this is going to negatively affect my property values, and this is going to increase crime in my neighborhood. How do you respond to people who have they're very afraid of this, but the data doesn't really suggest that that's going to happen?
Actually, there was a study done in Minneapolis by the Family Housing Fund, and it was done by the University of Minnesota. And they looked at affordable housing developments that had been built in the Twin Cities in various neighborhoods, Frogtown, South Minneapolis, North Minneapolis, etc., even Roseville, Minnetonka, in the metro area. And in no instance did any of those developments have a negative effect on property values. They all either had a completely undiscernible effect or a positive effect on property values. And then on the crime factor, affordable housing property managers do screen residents for background checks, just like any other property manager would, any other responsible property manager. And so in doing that, there is a selection process for picking residents and qualifying residents, income, background, history of various types. And, you do have to pass that screening process. And then, again, back to property management over the long term. Good property management takes care of those issues. That it's preemptive. You do select tenants based on a background. If something gets through, you deal with it right away. And really, it can be the case that the affordable housing development is better managed and has more stable residents and has more engagement from the neighborhood in terms of the workforce or volunteerism, maybe than your average resident or average property down the block.
What are your thoughts, John? Anything to add to that?
I think especially senior housing, affordable senior housing, you don't hear about lower property values or crime coming from that. It's people that have lower incomes, and I think everybody in this room and across the community have at one time or another, when you're just starting out right after college, you're not earning a whole lot of money, you need a place to live. One of the things that I hear about with regard to affordable housing is, my son or daughter can't afford to live in my community now because housing is so expensive. And I'd like to support a place that they would be able to live in and get on their feet and not be living upstairs or in the basement, and be able to live in the community where I am living. Or, my mother is older and she's single now, and she needs a place that's not the old house, and she's living on Social Security and maybe a small pension or something, and she needs some place that's affordable too. So I think it's bigger than being concerned about what's going to happen next door, because it's different than what it is today.
Yeah, it's and I've learned too that when you have people, when you put a stabilizing force like these projects into some neighborhoods, that sometimes the neighborhoods are troubled, it actually is a positive impetus for change, and you're addressing some people's basic needs, which a lot of times helps elevate them out of poverty and elevate them out under situations where they're more susceptible to crime.
Yeah.
Maybe one last question for you both. Rochester, we have a huge challenge in front of us. The Maxfield study came out and said we need, the next 15 years or so, we have to build 22,000 housing units, about 9,000 different types of affordable units. We only have 45,000 housing units in the city right now. That tells you how much we have to grow in the next 15 years.
Yeah.
How do we work together and accomplish this?
Well, I think the housing study, which really, like you said, quantified the demand for all types of housing for all incomes, really compels the community to develop a plan to build that kind of housing. And so I think that over the next few months, because the Rochester Area Foundation and the Mayo Clinic and the Olmsted County Board and the City of Rochester City Council are collaborating to create that plan, that by the end of the year there will be a vision and there will be a plan for addressing those needs. And it will be on the whole spectrum. Rochester, that 22,000 units of housing is everything from very high-end luxury housing, maybe downtown, or in very amenity-rich areas of the city, to workforce housing for the people that are going to be working in the hallways and offices of Mayo Clinic, or the office buildings, or the hospitality businesses here and restaurants and so forth, to school teachers and public employees and so forth down the line. So I think that there's a great opportunity right now to kind of define how the community can come together and support the need for that housing. And it will cause some change to occur. I think it will cause some redevelopment to occur in different neighborhoods, and certainly downtown. And it will create opportunities for new residents to move into the community, and maybe some additional diversity. So, Minnesota is changing. Rochester is leading the way.
I'd like to hear that.
and we're pleased to be helping in a small way with your efforts here.
We do appreciate the help. John, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think it's a great problem to have.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, you'd rather have a need for 22,000 housing units over the next 15 years than no housing units and no job growth and no income growth and vacant buildings all over the place that are falling down. It's a great opportunity, and the community has a chance to take this and reimagine itself and reinvent itself. When you're talking about increasing the amount of housing by 50% over what's here today, you have a real opportunity to shape transit corridors and putting people in a place where they can succeed, whether located close to work or a short bus ride or trolley ride or train ride to work, whatever the case might be that works for them. and you have an opportunity to implement some of those new designs that people are doing now. I mean, historic homes that were built 100 years ago, the housing that's built today will be historic in 100 years, and you have the opportunity to create that sense of place.
That's outstanding. Well, Warren Hanson, John Errigo, thank you so much for helping out the city of Rochester with this challenge, being part of our solution, and thank you for your time.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.